Hi everyone, my name is Marianne and I am the Education Director at the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. We are a nonprofit organization based on Cape Cod in Massachusetts and we work in white shark conservation. Our organization has three focus areas: research, public safety, and education. And it is our hope that working in these three areas, we will have a successful conservation of white sharks in the Northwest Atlantic. We also really hope to inspire the next generation of ocean stewards, which is why we're here today. We have been getting a lot of requests for the Lego League Challenge this year. I know that there are a lot of you who are interested in doing your project around white sharks or other species of sharks, and you are looking to try to use the challenge to actually come up with solutions for things that the researchers really are struggling with in how they are trying to study various shark species in their natural environment while trying to be minimally invasive. So we're going to answer some of those questions today. If you're joining us and you aren't doing the Lego League Challenge, that's great too. We really just hope that this video can be of use to you to really give you the information about the white shark movement study. So really focused on the tagging of white sharks and how that technology actually works and what we're learning from it. So again, my name is Marianne. I'm also joined by two of my colleagues, Michaela and Bridget, who you will hear from in a little bit. But to go ahead and get started, I'm just going to cover some of the basics today. Like, what is a shark? A shark is actually a fish. It has gills for breathing and fins for locomotion. And sharks are unlike other fish in that they have a few defining characteristics. One of which is that their entire body is made out of cartilage. We have cartilage in our ears, we have it in our nose. Their entire skeleton is actually made out of cartilage. They also have 5 to 7 gill slits on either side of their body. So most fish only have one gill slit on either side of their body. That's called an operculum. But by definition, a shark is going to have at least 5 on either side of its body, and then some have up to 7. One of those other defining characteristics is actually the scales on sharks. They have placoid scales, also called dermal denticles, that interlock, and it's one of the ways that enables sharks to be so fast swimming in the marine environment. So those are a few key things that make sharks unlike other fish. If you're going to be using them for this challenge or to better understand them, you always want to start, by actually trying to understand the animal. We could spend a lot of time learning about other anatomy parts of various sharks, but as you start to get species specific, the anatomy can actually change. So we encourage you that if you're going to focus on a singular species, to really look at what the anatomy, the behaviors, and the actual habitat range for that species are as you're looking to further understand it and have that information to help as you go through the challenge. For our organization, we are focused on white sharks. The reason for that is they are an apex predator, meaning they are at the top of our ocean food web. And, they play a really critical role in helping to maintain a balance of our ocean food web, working from the top down. So we need apex predators in our environments because, again, they're going to help to control that food web, working from the top down. So it really is that critical role. White sharks play that role in our ocean environment, and there are other animals that play that role in terrestrial environments. Uh, and as I said, as an organization, we are focused on white sharks, and we specifically are focused on white sharks in the Northwest Atlantic. So the population of white sharks that we are going to be talking about today are the ones that have a movement area as far north as Canada and as far south now as we know into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the population that we're going to be looking at as we answer through some of these questions today. One of the other points that I want to share with you all is just looking at some of the main challenges that are faced in actually being able to track the movement of sharks today. And first and foremost, anytime we're talking about a marine species, a challenge is the fact that they live in the ocean and we don't as humans, right? So, actually finding a way to be able to study the animal, to be able to find the animal when you want to go out and actually be able to conduct a research project on it, you need to have ongoing access to that animal to try to answer those questions as a scientist. So, one big challenge is the fact that they live in an environment that is not our own. So how are we going to be able to find them, and how are we actually going to then be able to find ways to be able to conduct research on them? Another challenge can be working in an ocean environment, the weather. So for us here with the research that we are doing, it is extremely weather dependent. So weather can play a huge factor in your ability to actually get out on the water and study the species. It can also be a huge factor in the equipment that you are using. Salt water is not friendly when it comes to technology. And so being able to actually engineer and design things that can withstand ocean environments and especially for a long period of time is a big challenge. Another piece of this is actually looking at what it costs to conduct research. If you want to be able to have time on the water, you're paying for a captain, you're paying for a boat. If you want to be able to put tags on the animal, what are those tags actually going to cost? And then you have to think about the team, right? So that's great. You put a tag on the shark, you learn some information, but who's actually then spending the time to analyze all of that data? You need that personnel. So there are a lot of costs behind research that can also be a challenge. White sharks are a prohibited species, so there are already protections in place. So that can often mean for us that there aren't necessarily funding opportunities to continue that research. So funding, can be another challenge in trying to further the research. Um, Just trying to look at some of the other questions that you all have submitted before I turn it over. Um, the last piece that I just want to note in terms of some of the challenges in studying is that, research is ongoing. There are some misconceptions out there in the science world that you can answer a question in a day. Science is not Amazon Prime. It takes time, and that can be challenging as well. There are some projects that could be answered potentially in a season, but other projects, it can take years to be able to find the answer. And there are some projects that even after years of research, there isn't a conclusive finding. So that's another piece to be mindful of, is just that it takes time, and that can be a challenge as well. So with that, I'm excited to be able to turn it over to Michaela, who is going to get a little bit further into the information that we're going to provide on the tags that are actually being used.
You, Marianne. Like she said, my name is Michaela Nix. I am the community educator here at the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, and I'm going to be taking you guys a little bit further into our tagging process. So, with the Conservancy, we do focus on tagging as our primary research, and we do this from the boat. There are different methods that different organizations use to study and tag sharks, and this is the research vessel that we work with. So, we do this from the boat. It is a way for us to have the animals in their stress-free environment without having to capture them or bait them. We're able to do research right alongside them. So we do work in collaboration with Dr. Greg Scommel. He works for the Division of Marine Fisheries for Massachusetts State, and he is our primary tagger. So he does this from our boat. You can see him at the very end of that pulpit or that plank at the end of the boat with a really long pole. So the way that we do this tagging is we use a certain type called a acoustic tag. So I'm going to show a clip video of Greg putting in this tag. So you can see he has a very long pole. It is modeled after a harpoon, but obviously it is not a harpoon because it is not fatal to the sharks. But the very, very end, there is an intermuscular dart that goes into a really thick muscle part of their dorsal fin just alongside of it, with the acoustic tag right attached to it. So the pulpit really allows us to hover right above the water, so we can get very close to the shark without spooking it. You will see him putting in the tag just on the side of the dorsal fin, right into that muscle. It's like a quick pinch. It doesn't seem to really bother the sharks. And that research can be last for years. So when we first started, our tags lasted about 4 to 5 years. Now, as technology has advanced, our tags last for about 10 years. So as we come up to a shark when we are tagging, we have technology called a hydrophone that can read the acoustic tag. So the way that technology works for the acoustic tag is with a receiver. So think of it as a communication system. This far picture with the dart and the acoustic tag, that is the part that attaches to our shark, whereas the middle picture is our receiver. And then on the far right, that is our buoy. So the buoy marks where the receivers are in the water, and the receiver is the data holder for that acoustic tag. So the acoustic tag is sending a sound to the receiver and it is being stored in that receiver. Now we have many of these receivers around our coast, so we're able to kind of track the movements of our shark and where they are going. So you can kind of think of this as an easy pass for your car. So your car would be our shark in this instance, and the receiver is the toll. So every time the shark is coming near the receiver, just like your car goes near a toll gate, it is sending that acoustic signal to the receiver and then downloading that information. Now, we do have a couple of different types of tags that we use. We mostly focus on that acoustic tag, but we do have another tag called a camera tag. And just like the camera tag name, it does have a camera on it. So this does allow us to have a different perspective of the shark. So it's kind of like a shark point of view. You can see in this picture, it is actually attached to that acoustic tag. So the acoustic tag stays on the shark for about 10 years, whereas that camera tag stays on for just a few days. So there's a tether with a timer and it does release after a certain amount of time. You can see it is very brightly colored and that is so we can easily find it. It does float to the surface and it has a little antennae, and so we can find that GPS location to it. This does have a little bit of a range for our acoustic tag. We are considering a range of the receiver with about 300 meters. Like Marianne said, it is very weather dependent. So with really rocky water and water conditions, our range can get smaller. So the more clear, the more glass-like the water, the farther the acoustic waves will sound. And the same thing for our camera tag. So there does have to be a certain range of distance that the camera tag and the acoustic tags will be able to work in that water condition. I do also have a video to show you guys of some of that footage that the camera tag does allow. Now, it does look green. Now, Massachusetts water is very green, but it's not quite this green. We do kind of change the color so that we can see contrast a little bit better. So you'll see it does look very neon green. A lot of the students think that it's night vision. It's not quite night vision, but it does allow us to see that contrast a little better. So you can see it is floating alongside the shark with that little acoustic tag. You can see in this video clip that the shark is eating a spiny dogfish. We see that happening with certain individuals that we have. So very cool evidence that we've been able to see. We've seen them eat the spiny dogfish, but most of the time they're just swimming around in the ocean blue and it's very, very peaceful. Now, with these tags, we do have our website. So with the acoustic tag, you can access our public website. This is the AWSC White Shark Logbook, and you can look through all of those receivers and those detections. So this is kind of what the website looks like. Again, it's accessible through our website, open to the public. You can go through different years and see what detections are like around the Cape. They do tell you individual sharks that have been detected on that, what size they were. We're able to figure out if there's more sharks that prefer an area. As you can see in this picture, the bigger the circle, the more red the circle is, the more detections there are. So it's a very cool way for us to figure out where a majority of the sharks are hanging out from year to year. Now, the last thing I want to focus on is we do have a really cool app. It's called Sharktivity. So it is a way for us to kind of be a part of that citizen science and allow people to be a part of our research as well. So you can put in sightings that you've seen if you're ever on the water, as well as if you live in the area or around the East Coast. You can have those detections come to you. So that is the acoustic and the camera tag um, connect or detections that are being uploaded onto the app. So that way you can kind of see real-time information as well as go back from year to year to see what those detections look like in that movement, which is very, very cool. So I'm going to turn it over to Bridget. So thank you guys so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bridget. I am the Shark Center Manager here for Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the shark movement and behaviors here. So we kind of want to understand more about the movement here on Cape. We want to understand how far they're traveling, where they're traveling to, maybe how long they're staying in a certain area, and on a more local level, also just finding those hotspots along the Cape for our public safety and community. So, like Michaela was talking about on our Sharktivity app, you can kind of see different routes. This route is of Lee Beth. She is one of the furthest tracked white sharks as of fall 2024. So you can see she has traveled all the way from Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico, all the way to up here past Nova Scotia. It is about 2,500 miles range that we have seen her. And again, she is the furthest tracked. You can see other different shark routes on this app as well and again track your own sightings. So it's pretty cool. And it's one of the ways we can see the movements based off of our tagging and share that with the public. So it's a really good source. She was tagged with a spot tag, which is a smart position temperature transmitting tag. So we get these pings based off of when her dorsal fin is breaking the surface for a certain amount of time. All right. So sharks do travel by themselves. They are solitary animals. You can see a kind of their range, their primary range here, and then these orange spots are their hot spots, the aggregation spots. You can see here on Cape Cod is one of them. We are one of the largest hot spots for the white sharks, especially for our population of the Northwest Atlantic. They are coming here throughout the different times, but they are all doing their own thing. Again, they are not working together. They are solitary animals. So they're all doing their own thing. They just happen to be in this area around the same time. And then here we could see more how far they travel. Like we saw with Lee Beth, we know they travel from the Gulf of Mexico to Nova Scotia. You can see all these different points. And this is, again, the Northwest Atlantic population. That is who we do our research on. We can see all these different points. Some sharks do only travel, say, only to the Carolinas, and then others will, like Lee Beth, travel all the way up to Nova Scotia. It is a very independent movement that they are not doing together. They are doing it on their own. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out is how far this range actually is and where they're staying, how far they're going. The more sharks we tag, the more we are learning and the more different pings we're seeing and more research we're collecting. So some current threats to these white sharks are the bycatch. They can get caught in different gill lines, different fish and hook, just like that. However, because of a lot of protections on the white sharks, federally, state, there's the Shark Conservation Act. They are protected species, so they are not allowed to be finned here. They cannot be caught and landed. They cannot be traded. Their resources can't be traded, stuff like that, especially here in Mass. The state protection came in 2005 because, again, we were highlighted as one of the biggest shark population sites. So there's all these protections in place to help further protection, but bycatch does still happen. It is on accident. They get accidentally caught up in these things, and we're trying to eliminate that as much as possible.
And I just want to jump in here and point out a clarification point. Bridget's doing a great job. When we look at the protections that are in place for animals, wording is super important. So white sharks are a prohibited species. So that means that they do have protections in place to help conserve their populations. There are other animals, like animals who are found under the endangered species list, who are protected species, where there are even more protections in place on their habitat, on how you can interact with them. So those words protected and prohibited have different meanings behind them, and white sharks are categorized as a prohibited species.
Thank you for clarifying that for us. So with that being one of the hotspots, we are able to conduct a lot of research. When the white sharks are in this area, they tend to be in hunting mode. So because of that, they are very close to the shore. They're in shallow water. About 50% of the time, we're seeing them in 15 feet of water or less, making it even easier to spot them than if they were in the deep water. We have a spotter pilot that goes out and does a little route to look for sharks, and then radios our research team on the boat of its location and position. And hopefully they get there before the shark swims off. And we are able to get some video data so we can help ID the white shark we are on and maybe even place a tag to help study the movement if there's not already a tag on the shark. Yeah, so that's pretty much all, I believe, all the questions I have. If anyone would like to add anything else, please do. And thank you so much.
So, yeah, as Bridget noted, those were the bulk of the questions that were submitted, or the topics that have been asked, really looking at how do the tags work? Why are you placing these tags? So, in closing, I just want to share how research really does all start with a question. So, where are the sharks going? How long are they staying in one place? Are they all traveling to the same spot? Do they have the same route that they go? These are all questions that we are looking to answer through the research efforts. So these are ongoing studies that are taking place through the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and our collaborators here in Massachusetts, like the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, as well as other collaborators up and down the coast. So we wish you the best of luck with the Lego League Challenge. We hope that this answers your questions and it sets you off for a successful challenge. So thank you so much and have a good one.